Yep, there you go. Perseverance.
I get called a lot of things that I'm not.
Just say people assume. How do you want
It's serious, yeah.
Okay, but
My grandparents on the right are Italian and German, and my grandparents on the left are Panamanian and Marcelian.
Being able to feel comfortable and sharing my own experiences. In a normal school day, I don't really get the opportunity to talk about how I feel about my race or other races, and I just feel like I'm so close to everyone in this class.
Right now, because of my experience in creating the poster about what mixed race people think about themselves, I am in the acting stage. I want to embrace the positive qualities even more than I already do and diffuse the negative ones.
It's easier to talk about my perspective on things because there's other biracial students in the class, so I can relate easier and I don't feel awkward talking about who I am.
Like seeing this in print like makes me feel normal because I've definitely felt this way.
I know in my social studies class, if I make a comment about like being African American, the whole class kind of gets quiet, but then in student equity, everyone has something to say.
What makes student equity teams stand out is very, very open discussion. Everyone gets to say what they want. And I had never heard a black person's perspective on his story, on his life. And that was just like weird for me to realize. I think that in a normal classroom setting, kids are scared to say what they feel or what they want. You know, it's okay and it's really welcome, your opinion and your perspective.
Chinese art is really pretty, so she could think like, oh, it looks really nice, you know, and that's what she wanted to do.
A lot of our conversations are like race-based, so I can really throw my feedback in it because I'm a military child and I moved a lot of different places and I experienced a lot of things. Because it might not be just an Asian thing, she's probably like putting like an Asian background to it. The conversations were like so real.
Especially when you're in a place that's like, it's not that many of you, and not that many of your race, it really gives you a voice that you don't, that voice that you probably felt like you haven't ever had in your school at all. A lot of students in school really are looking for that voice.
And she does like a whole like Japanese play for a whole thing, but they didn't know they know she's outrageous or whatever, so they didn't give it no attention.
I think the most unique aspect of this class is everybody can really be themselves. They don't have to hide themselves from anybody else, and they don't have to sugarcoat anything they say like they would in a normal class or school setting.
I'm so glad you said that, Hannah. So I'm going to do a little digression.
I know you're different.
What? Okay, so what's different? You do what?
I said we have stank to our personality.
You have stank to your personality? I have no idea what you're talking about.
We actually have like a type of attitude to our class.
Okay, so now
In my history class last year, it was kind of hard to express my feelings for certain videos that we watched on like slavery. Nobody else would really understand it but me, saying that it's part of my history. So I kind of had to sugarcoat some of the expressions that I use. I feel like with this class, I don't really have to do that because you kind of learn how to relate or how to ask questions if you don't relate or if you don't understand, to further the discussion and get a better understanding, not only for yourself, but for the whole class.
In this format, even though it's academic, it still feels like this sense of community, like we're, getting together and we're gonna eat food and talk and have these really great conversations. You get everyone coming from different walks of life, all talking about their experiences, all talking about how they feel in a given situation. So that's what I love about our community.
But when you went to camp, it felt weird? Is that what I heard?
It made me feel like he was engaged in listening to what I was saying and was actively engaged, not just nodding his head at me. Okay. Like, he was actually listening because he was able to say it back to me.
I tell them that it is a class, but don't think of it like a class. Think of it like a gathering, like a place that you can come and you meet new people and you sort of build a bond with these people over the time that you meet with them every night that we do meet.
I would say that it's made me more confident to be among my peers because in many of my classes I am the only person of color, and so it makes me feel more confident to talk about my experiences in this broad range of people. I can remember like throughout my life like where I've been in these stages, but then I feel like I always been switching back and forth between some of these stages. So I've gone backwards, I've gone forwards. I just feel more comfortable and I feel more confident talking about my problems. But it was so frustrating to hear them just write off India in this very generalized way.
So how could you say that? How could you say that using the skills you've been learning?
It's a really supportive environment, so it sort of nurtures the way that you feel.
Okay, now I'm at 6 and I'm done, boom. No. At different times in your life, you could be back and forth. That's why it's called development. And the goal isn't to be at this pinnacle. The goal is to be where you are and to know where you are and explore where you are. And that's how you grow.
And I said, I want to help. How can I help? How can I help promote change and equality for African Americans and for all people of color? And he just turned to me and he said, educate your own people. And I had a couple feelings there. One, I felt rejected at first. And I felt sad because I felt like there wasn't really a way for me to help.
So we're gonna do mindful listening. Decide who's gonna be the person A and person B. So person A is gonna talk first. Give a minute, and then person B is gonna repeat back.
Also, the recent points that really connected with me was the whole notion of these white people trying to fit in with the colored group or the minority group or whatever the case was.
She felt like, well, at least I'm here trying to help. It kind of bothered me. It's like, we really don't need your help. We're just trying to help ourselves feel better about ourselves. And it was just a very weird feeling, eerie feeling. Like, it's the only reason she wanted us to like give her like a rose or give her like something to like show our gratitude or something about that. Like, it would bother me a lot. It was like, that's the only thing I kept reminiscing in my mind. And
repeat back at least 3 things. Go.
What I heard you say was that white people feel kind of rejected when they're not included in like the big picture.
So you thought it was interesting, particularly like one part of the video was when there's a woman a woman who asked, how she could help in any way, and then she was like offended when, there wasn't really anything for her to help with, and you thought it was kind of like, you didn't use the word silly, but it was silly, like, if we are people just trying to help ourselves, it's not our job to find something for you to do, like, woohoo, you're not aggressively racist, like, do you want a ribbon for that?
So now you can do crosstalk for 2 minutes. Crosstalk, just talk to each other, but remember, the reason why we do the first activity where you're listening and then you're responding back is because we want to retrain ourselves. If you don't think about it, when the other person is talking, instead of listening, you're thinking about what you want to say next. And I want you to train yourself not to do that. I want you to be perfectly present, even though you're talking to each other. And it's not easy to do. So that you can really be present, listen. If you want to repeat back, if it's natural, you can do that. If it's not natural, if you just want to jump in and talk, that's okay. But pay attention to your airtime. And that's condition 4. Condition 4 is establishing parameters and monitoring the agreements and the conditions. So you want to make sure that you're speaking from your own perspective, that you're isolating race, that you're going through all the conditions as you're talking, right? As you're staying engaged, you might experience some discomfort. All of that, all skills, you gotta put them, it's all in there, okay, you ready? You have 2 minutes. Make sure both of you talk.
Eventually, at some point, they all had stated that they felt rejected or they felt like they couldn't help. But what the minority of that certain circumstance was saying was, help yourself and your people first in order to help me.
I resonated with the part about where the woman was saying that like every time she has to try to start like a friendship with someone who's white, like she feels like she's crawling over like shards of like broken relationships. And the way that I thought of that is sometimes because this community is predominantly white, and so my interactions are predominantly with white people, that I notice sometimes that when I do hear something ignorant come out of somebody's mouth, it hurts, because I thought I had a good relationship with them.
So what came up for you guys in your conversation? So what do you want to add to the commentary around what was in the film?
If I were to go up and introduce myself to a white person, regardless of if they're my age or not, it's automatically instinct for me to make myself seem intelligent to that person, and make myself seem like I'm on the same level that they are, and we are equals, so we can have that intelligent conversation, or we can have that good first impression to keep our connection. That way we can continue to converse with each other. But if it was the inverse, where if there was a white person to come and introduce themselves to me, it's automatically anticipated that they're going to be a more intelligent figure or a figure of authority because of the stereotype that is presented on them.
So whose perspective is that? Is that
Mine.
your perspective? Oh, yeah. Okay, so we just want to be clear that you're not trying to tell us what someone else thinks.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
In my perspective, when a white person comes and introduces.
Okay, you perceive them.
Right.
Okay.
Because it's just that automatic notion that they're better than me in some sense, or they know more than me of this or that, or whatever the case may be.
I think that student equity team has taught me that I know nothing. That there is so much to learn, and so many perspectives to discover, and so much about yourself that I truly didn't understand, because before this I didn't think of myself truly as a racial being. And I didn't understand the privilege that is inherent with being white. And I didn't understand the system of racism that was around me. And it's still difficult for me to understand every single aspect. That was interesting, like, because she's a white girl, she can't twerk.
Yeah.
Is what I've seen, and like.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You have an observation? So she brought up the intersection of sexism and race. And she also racialized her language, which allowed, I don't know if you noticed the body language, all of a sudden Star leaned in.
I have to keep exploring and keep talking about these crucial topics.
The culture here has made me open my eyes to my own culture. It made me realize what I am more. It helped me, once again, help me blossom into the person I am now that I can see from different views instead of just my view.
Because you get people reinforcing your ideas and also challenging your ideas. So you learn to do that for yourself. Every time you have a thought, you learn to challenge it and say, well, is this really true? Can I adapt this to a different situation? Is it fair? Is it right?
But what the blogger is offering is, if you're gonna racialize, then racialize everything. Don't only, as Kyle was saying, don't only racialize it when it's not white, because the danger there is that means that white becomes the unexamined norm.
You learn to make your thoughts and your opinions more developed because you learn to critique them and shape them. This class has really changed the way I see myself and has created a really positive image of my identity for myself. Like, I've seen my race in a different way because I'm learning more about it. I'm learning about its development and how it plays in society, so I'm more aware of it, and it makes me less confused, I guess, because most of my classes, we don't really talk about this. I think that this class has really developed my sense of identity.
They felt free after all the beatings and stuff. It kind of was just like, it was just eye-opening for me.
MLK was not just about like equality, but also about, he taught fearlessness.
This article really highlighted the fact that there was terrorism in the South, and like, I personally never really thought of it as terrorism until I read this article.
I think after reading this article and seeing like the words like terror and stuff, I think it switches from an inspiration leader to like a power leader.
Mm-hmm. And that's different. And if we're going to interrupt systemic racism, which is really what this course is kind of about, not just learning about race and the way it plays out in our country, but also giving you some tools to interrupt it. We have to start telling other stories.
This class forces you to be uncomfortable because it forces you to talk about things that we might not talk about otherwise. And so it gives you that sort of leadership ability that you're able to challenge inequality and challenge institutional systems in place that are unfair and unjust. So I would say that it gives you this ability to talk to people who are different from you, to communicate with people that you might not otherwise communicate with in your high school experience.
I'm asking you not to leave any child behind. I'm asking you not to be colorblind, but to be color brave, so that every child knows that their future matters and their dreams are possible. Thank you.
So take 5 minutes at your table, monitor your conversation, and when I say monitor your conversation, what do I mean by that?
Keep it courageous.
Keep it courageous, and the way you keep it courageous is by doing what?
Keeping it from your perspective.
Keeping it from your perspective and
Listening.
repeating back to one another. Anything else? Staying engaged. Okay, and it can be difficult. That's okay too. Okay? 5 minutes, go.
I think I'm also in the feeling stage because I know my mom is also very like realistic, and I think that's like helped me like I guess not be colorblind, be colorblind.
I've heard my mom definitely talk a lot about what this woman is talking about, so I'm in the feeling zone because I understand what is going on.
My mom always talks about how I'm going to face anti-Semitism at some point, and just because I haven't yet in Highland Park doesn't mean I'm not going to. So she's kind of like always been preparing me for that day when someone excludes me or doesn't like me because I'm Jewish.
For those of you who are graduating in another 2 weeks, right? I want you to think about the new environment that you're about to find yourselves in, and how can you apply this notion of color bravery in your new situation. For those of you who are going to be seniors next year, I also want you to think about your role here as a senior, and that's a very different space in terms of how others look up to you. So what is this notion that she's talking about? I mean, she's kind of giving you a charge in a way to be brave. And we've been talking about being courageous, which is similar. And so I want you to talk with your table group just about how is that going to manifest itself for you in your new environment, and be ready after you talk this time to report out.
It's probably like 50-50 as far as like the U.S. universities goes. So I was like thinking like, well, it'd be like very interesting to like have friends from like all over the place.
I would prefer to get to know somebody and not have race and religion constantly brought up, because that's the first thing I get asked. I get asked, what are you? You know, like it's just kind of ridiculous sometimes.
It's frustrating in my point of view because, like you said, you get questioned about it all the time. I automatically get jumped into the stereotype. So I'm a black athlete. I'm automatically supposed to be good at this and excel at this and this and that.
Annabelle, why don't you start?
From my perspective, my mom is the CEO, and I hear her talk about the stuff she says in her video, and my mom told me to be brave, so it kind of like pushes me to be brave, so I can relate. And for college, my school is very diverse, so I'm not like too nervous to kind of put myself out there.
I just talked about how I'm excited to meet new people from different backgrounds. So like when I approach people who are different than me, I think like curious will be my approach.
I looked for like a more diverse campus because it's something I definitely wanted, and like I'm very comfortable with like who I am and like how I was raised, and like I'm comfortable with like my religion, but I'm also like ready to like challenge it.
And it's a matter of trying to exercise the patience that's being taught here, and also at the same time, exercise courageousness that I don't have to be patient all the time, and that if someone is being disrespectful, that I do have the right to say something about it. But so I think that's how I plan on taking those skills into this class.
And then we went deeper into like personal stories, and I brought up how that for me, most of the time it wasn't a question about you know, my race or anything. It was automatically me being jumped into a stereotype that I'm a black athlete, so I should be good at this and good at that. And most people don't see the other sides of me, like the family man or the artistic one or the handyman with cars or whatever the case may be. They don't assume that I'm that. They automatically assume that I am what they primarily see me as.
Right, so it sounds like you see it as an opportunity to reach out into parts of the community that you didn't reach out to when you were doing your visits, and that you're looking forward to interacting with people so that you can not only use your skills, but also so you can demonstrate the depth of who you are, or the various facets of you, break down stereotypes.
I have definitely been even more confident in other classes when it comes to expressing my opinions about race or gender than I would have been before I was in this class.
In my social studies class, I'm the only biracial student, and I feel so much more comfortable like opening up and sharing my opinions because of student equity. I definitely feel like I have a voice now, and I feel like my opinions really matter.
Before I took this class, I'll just sit in my classes and don't say anything. And then I said I feel each race has some success and creativity of their own. But after taking this class and knowing that I can talk about whatever is on my mind and being able to voice my opinion about myself and how I feel about the things we talk about, I can talk more in my other classes, defending myself and other people who are afraid to step up from their own selves. I'm able to do this in this class, and I should be able to do it in every class, so I just do it now without no problem.
I think what student equity has allowed me to do is really train me for discussions on race, which you can encounter in English classes or social studies classes that before made me a little bit uncomfortable and quiet, and I didn't know, what if I say something that offends someone, or what if I really don't know what I'm talking about? So now I kind of know what I'm talking about, and I can not only participate in a discussion on race, but lead a discussion on race.
I find myself speaking out a lot more, saying my piece regardless of whoever's around. I'm pretty much the only African American in most of my classes, so it's like they're never gonna understand if no one really tells them anything about it. So why not just speak my piece and let it out and give them a little feel for something that most of them aren't used to. I was like somewhat of a shy person, but I've always hid that by trying to be outspoken. And I feel like this class really made me into that person that I was, pretending to be at first. I think that regardless of their situation, regardless of their race, regardless of anything, it brings a lot of people out of their shell. And being in this class and just living as a military child, seeing other places of the world kind of just like strengthen who I am personally, and that's basically what I saw on that paper. Okay.